The morning rain created soft halos around the streetlights on Pine Street as Emma Hartley flipped the sign on the door of Rosewood. Blooms from closed to open. The flower shop had been in her family for 37 years, passed down from her grandmother Catherine, who had built it from nothing but determination and a love for creating beauty. Now it was Emma's responsibility, a weight she carried with equal parts pride and anxiety. At 24, Emma had never expected to inherit the shop so soon. Her grandmother's sudden passing 2 years ago had left her reeling. Thrust into the role of business owner before she felt ready. The shop was struggling, caught between rising rents in the rapidly gentrifying neighborhood and competition from online flower delivery services. But Emma couldn't imagine letting it go. This place held every precious memory of her childhood, every lesson her grandmother had taught her about patience, care, and finding magic in small things. She moved through the shop now, trimming stems and refreshing water in the display buckets. Her hands worked with practiced efficiency, even as her mind worried over the stack of bills sitting on the desk in the back office. The rent was overdue again. She had maybe 2 weeks before her landlord would start making serious threats. The bell above the door chimed, pulling her from her thoughts. Emma looked up, and her breath caught. The man who walked in seemed to fill the entire shop with his presence. He was tall, probably just over 6 feet, with dark hair that was slightly damp from the rain. He wore a charcoal gray suit that looked like it cost more than Emma's entire month's rent, and his eyes were in striking shade of blue-green that reminded her of the ocean. But it wasn't his appearance that made her freeze. It was something else. Something in the way he looked around the shop with genuine interest, as if he was seeing something wonderful instead of her cramped, slightly shabby little flower store. "Good morning," he said, and his voice was warm, deeper than she expected. "I need flowers for an event tonight." Emma felt her cheeks flush. She tucked a strand of her light brown hair behind her ear, suddenly conscious of her oversized cardigan and the dirt under her fingernails. Of course, what kind of event? A dinner? Business associates? Something impressive but not ostentatious? He stepped closer to the counter and Emma caught a hint of his cologne. Something subtle and expensive. She nodded, her mind already running through options. "How many arrangements do you need? 5 centerpieces? Can you deliver them to the Four Seasons by 6? The Four Seasons? Of course. Emma swallowed hard. "Yes, absolutely. Let me show you some options." She led him to the back of the shop where she kept her portfolio of past arrangements. As she reached for the binder on the high shelf, she stood on her tiptoes, stretching. The binder was just out of reach. She felt him step behind her, his arm extending over her shoulder to easily retrieve it. "Thank you," she whispered, taking the binder with trembling hands. Why was she so nervous? She dealt with customers every day. But as she opened the portfolio, her elbow caught the edge of a vase on the workbench. Everything happened in slow motion. The vase tipped, water and flowers, cascading out in a waterfall of white roses and baby's breath. Emma lunged to catch it, but only succeeded in knocking over 2 more containers. Water soaked the front of her dress, petals stuck to her cardigan. She stood frozen in the middle of the disaster, mortified beyond words. Oh no, I'm so sorry," she stammered, grabbing at towels, trying to salvage the flowers, her face burning with embarrassment. "I can't believe I just did that. I'm usually not this clumsy, I swear." To her surprise, the man laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but something genuine and warm. "Here, let me help." He shrugged off his expensive suit jacket and hung it on a nearby hook, then knelt down beside her to gather the scattered flowers. "Please, you don't have to," Emma protested. "Your suit will get ruined. It's just a suit," he said simply, meeting her eyes. "These flowers are more important." They worked together in silence for a moment, and Emma found herself relaxing slightly. His hands were careful with the flowers, respectful. When they had cleaned up the worst of it, he stood and offered her a hand. She took it, and he pulled her to her feet with an easy strength. "I'm Julian, by the way, Julian Pierce." Emma's eyes widened. She knew that name. Everyone in Seattle knew that name. Julian Pierce was the founder of Novatech, one of the most successful software companies in the country. He was worth billions, featured regularly in Forbes and Business Insider. And he had just drenched herself in flower water in front of him. Emma Hartley, she managed, shaking his hand even though hers was still damp. I own this shop. I promise I'm normally much more professional. I think you're charming, Julian said, and the way he said it made her believe he meant it. Now, should we try this again? Show me what you can create. Emma took a breath and centered herself. This was her element. Flowers, she understood. She began describing arrangements, pulling stems to demonstrate, explaining color theory and the language of different blooms. As she talked, she forgot her nervousness, forgot who he was. She just saw the flowers and the possibilities. Julian listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. Finally, he said, I trust your judgment. Create something beautiful. Budget is not a concern. Those last words sent a small thrill through her. Budget is not a concern. When was the last time a customer had said that? She quoted him a price that was fair, but would help considerably with her rent situation. He didn't even blink, just pulled out a black credit card and handed it to her. As she processed the payment, he looked around the shop again. How long have you had this place? It was my grandmother's, Emma said softly. She started it 37 years ago. I took over when she passed. It has character, Julian said. You don't find places like this anymore? Everything is becoming so corporate, so sterile. Emma felt a swell of affection for the shop, for her grandmother's legacy. It's exactly how I feel. Thank you for understanding, Julian prepared. To leave, putting his jacket back on, he paused at the door. Emma, I have a feeling those arrangements are going to be spectacular. I'll see you at 6. I'll be there, she promised. After he left, Emma stood in the quiet shop, her heart still racing. She told herself it was just the adrenaline from the embarrassing spill, from the large order, from meeting someone famous. But deep down she knew it was something else. Something about the way Julian had looked at her, like she mattered, like she was interesting, had awakened something she had kept carefully dormant for years. She threw herself into creating the arrangements, choosing deep burgundy roses mixed with white peonies, accented with eucalyptus and delicate Estel B. Each centerpiece was a work of art, the kind of creation that reminded her why she loved this work. By 5 o'clock, all 5 were carefully loaded into her delivery van. The Four Seasons lobby was intimidating. All marble and crystal chandeliers. Emma felt distinctly out of place in her simple dress and cardigan as she wheeled the cart of flowers toward the event space. A woman in an elegant black suit met her, directing her to the private dining room. Emma set up each centerpiece with meticulous care, adjusting every stem until they were perfect. She was finishing the last one when she heard his voice. They're even more beautiful than I imagined. She turned to find Julian standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'm glad you're pleased, Emma said, gathering her things. If you need anything else, just call the shop. Emma, wait. He crossed the room toward her. I know this is forward, and you can absolutely say no, but would you have dinner with me? Not tonight, I have this event. But tomorrow, maybe? Emma's heart began to pound. I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? She gestured vaguely between them. Because you're you, and I'm just a florist who spills water on herself. Julian smiled, that same warm smile from the shop. You're not just anything, Emma. I've had a dozen assistants try to order flowers for me this week, and I kept putting it off because something felt wrong. Then this morning I was driving past your shop and something made me stop. Call it fate, call it intuition. I don't know, but I'd like to get to know you better. No pressure, just dinner. Emma wanted to say no. Every instinct told her this was dangerous, that someone like Julian Pierce existed in a completely different world. But there was something in his eyes, something genuine and patient, that made her pause. Okay, she heard herself say. Not tomorrow, but somewhere quiet, please? Not fancy? Not just the place, Julian said, and his smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. I'll pick you up at 7. That night, lying in her small apartment above the flower shop, Emma stared at the ceiling and wondered what she had agreed to. She had never been good at relationships. Her childhood had been unstable, bouncing between Foster homes after her mother abandoned her at 8 years old. Her grandmother had finally taken her in at 13, but the damage was done. Emma had learned early that people leave, that getting close to someone just meant more pain when they inevitably walked away. She had built walls around her heart. Focusing on the flowers, the shop, things she could control, and now here was Julian Pierce, threatening to dismantle those carefully constructed defenses with nothing more than a kind smile and patient eyes. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you again for the beautiful flowers." Everyone was impressed. "Sleep well, Emma. Julian." She stared at the message for a long time before typing a simple response. "You're welcome. Good night." As she set the phone down, Emma felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. It felt dangerous and thrilling and terrifying all at once. It felt like hope, and she wasn't sure she was ready for that. But ready or not, tomorrow. Evening would come, and she would have to decide whether to take a chance on something new, or retreat back into the safety of her solitude. Julian arrived at exactly 7 o'clock the next evening, pulling up in front of rosewood blooms in a sleek silver car that was elegant but not ostentatious. Emma watched from the window upstairs, her stomach in knots. She had changed outfits 4 times, finally settling on a simple navy dress and cream cardigan. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves around her shoulders, and she had applied just enough makeup to feel confident without feeling like someone she wasn't. When she opened the door, Julian smiled at her in a way that made her feel like she was the only person in the world. He wore dark jeans and a white button-down shirt, casual enough to put her at ease, but still polished. In his hand was a single sunflower. "For the florist," he said, offering it to her. "I figured you might appreciate something simple." Emma took the flower, touched by the gesture. Sunflowers meant adoration and loyalty. Did he know that, or was it just a coincidence? "It's perfect. Thank you. Let me put it in water." She ran back upstairs quickly, placing the sunflower in a small vase by her window where the morning light would find it. When she returned, Julian was waiting by the car, holding the passenger door open for her. The restaurant he chose was a small Italian place tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. It had checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles, the kind of place that felt warm and genuine. They were seated in a corner booth, and Emma felt herself beginning to relax. "This is nice," she said, looking around. "Not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Julian asked, studying her over the menu. "I don't know. Somewhere with a dress code and 5 forks per place setting." He laughed. "I save those places for business dinners where I need to impress people I don't particularly like. This is where I come when I want to actually enjoy myself." They ordered, and the conversation flowed more easily than Emma had anticipated. Julian asked about her grandmother, about how she had learned the flower business, about her favorite blooms and why. He listened with complete attention, asking follow-up questions that showed he was genuinely interested. "Gardenias," Emma said when he asked about her favorite. "They're temperamental, difficult to grow, but when you get them right, the fragrance is absolutely heavenly. My grandmother had a gardenia bush in her backyard, and in the summer, the whole neighborhood would smell like them." "And what do gardenias symbolize?" Julian asked. Emma met his eyes, feeling a flutter in her chest. Purity, sweetness, and secret love. Something shifted in the air between them. Julian reached across the table, his hand covering hers gently. "Emma, I need you to know something. I'm not good at games. When I'm interested in something or someone, I pursue it directly. But I also understand boundaries. So I want you to tell me honestly, is this okay? Me being here with you?" Emma looked down at their hands, his so much larger than hers, warm and steady. Every instinct screamed at her to pull away, to protect herself. But something stronger made her turn her hand over, lacing her fingers through his. "It's okay," she whispered. "It scares me, but it's okay." "Why does it scare you?" Emma took a breath. She wasn't used to this kind of honesty, this vulnerability. But something about Julian made her want to try, because people leave. They always leave. You're this successful, brilliant man who could have anyone, and I'm just someone who talks to flowers all day. Eventually, you'll realize I'm not interesting enough, not sophisticated enough, and you'll leave too. Julian's grip on her hand tightened. "Emma, look at me." When she did, his eyes were intense, sincere. "I've dated models, executives, socialites, women who knew all the right things to say, who fit perfectly into my world, and I was bored out of my mind. But you, watching you talk about flowers yesterday, seeing the way your whole face lights up when you create something beautiful that's not boring, that's real. That's rare." "You don't really know me," Emma said softly. "Then let me know you. No pressure, no expectations. Let me show up and be patient while you figure out if you can trust me." Over the next few weeks, Julian did exactly that. He showed up, not with grand gestures or expensive gifts, but with thoughtful attention to who Emma actually was. He came to the flower shop during her lunch breaks, bringing sandwiches from her favorite deli. He learned the names of her regular customers and asked about them. He offered to help with deliveries, loading heavy buckets and arrangements into her van without complaint. One Saturday morning, Emma found him waiting outside the shop before she opened, holding 2 coffee cups and wearing jeans and an old sweatshirt. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "Don't you have important CEO things to do?" "I'm delegating today," he said with a grin. "Right. I thought maybe you could use an extra pair of hands." "You mentioned yesterday that you had a big wedding order." Emma felt something crack in the walls around her heart. "You don't have to do that. I want to," Julian said simply. "Let me help." They spent the morning working side by side, Julian following her instructions as she taught him how to construct bouquets and boutonnieres. He was surprisingly good at it, his hands steady and patient. They fell into an easy rhythm, talking and laughing, and Emma realized this was what happiness felt like. It's just simple, uncomplicated presence. But that afternoon, reality intruded. A woman walked into the shop, tall and elegant in a designer suit, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek bun. Emma recognized her from the society pages. Vanessa Chen, heiress to a hotel empire, and, according to the internet, Julian's ex-girlfriend. "Julian, darling," Vanessa said, completely ignoring Emma, "I've been trying to reach you. We need to discuss the charity gala next month. You're still co-chairing with me, aren't you?" Julian's expression remained neutral, but Emma saw the tension eye in his shoulders. "Vanessa, this isn't the time. I'm working." Vanessa finally looked at Emma, her gaze sweeping over her dirt-smudged apron and simple clothes with barely concealed disdain. "Working here?" she laughed, a crystalline sound that made Emma feel small. "Julian, you can't be serious. This is some kind of philanthropy project, right? Helping struggling small businesses?" "Vanessa, leave." Julian's voice was cold in a way Emma had never heard. Now, but the damage was done. Vanessa left with a knowing smirk, and Emma felt every insecurity she had been trying to ignore come rushing back. "Emma," Julian started, but she held up a hand. "Is that what people think? That I'm some kind of charity case for you?" "I don't care what people think. What I do," Emma said, her voice breaking. "Julian, look at this place. Look at me. We live in completely different worlds. Maybe Vanessa is right. Maybe this is just you being kind to someone who needs help." Julian crossed the shop in 3 strides, taking her face gently in his hands. "Emma Hartley, listen to me very carefully. You are not a charity case. You're not a project. You are an incredibly talented, beautiful, genuine person who makes me want to be better. Yes, we come from different backgrounds. Yes, my life has complications. But none of that changes how I feel about you. How do you feel about me?" Emma whispered, terrified of the answer. "Like I've been waiting my whole life to find you." Emma felt tears spill down her cheeks. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let someone in." "Then we'll figure it out together," Julian said, brushing away her tears with his thumbs. "No rushing, no pressure. Just one day at a time." That evening, after closing the shop, Emma found an envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a check for the exact amount of her overdue rent, along with a note in Julian's handwriting. "I know. You'll probably be angry about this. But your landlord called me trying to use our connection to get access to business opportunities. I told him that wouldn't happen. But I also couldn't stand the thought of you losing this place because of money, when I have more than I could ever need. This isn't about charity or control. It's about protecting something precious, If you want to pay me back, fine. If not, that's fine too. All I ask is that you don't push me away for trying to help. Yours, Julian. Emma sat on the floor of her shop, surrounded by flowers in the fading light, and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling of being seen, being valued, being cared for. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once. She picked up her phone and called him. I got your note, she said when he answered. Are you angry? He sounded worried. No, I'm scared. What? But I'm also grateful. Thank you for protecting my grandmother's legacy. Always, Julian said softly. Mama, there's something else I need to tell you. There's a technology conference in San Francisco next week. It's a big deal, lots of press, very public. I have to go, and I was wondering if you would come with me. I know it's asking a lot, that you'd be in the spotlight, photographed, scrutinized. If it's too much, I completely understand. Emma closed her eyes. This was exactly what she feared. Stepping into his world, being judged, being found wanting. But she also thought about what her grandmother used to say. The most beautiful flowers grow toward the light, even when it's scary to leave the shade. Okay, she said. I'll go, really? The joy in his voice made her smile. But Julian, I need you to be patient with me. I'm going to be nervous and probably say the wrong things. Then I'll be right beside you the whole time, he promised. We're in this together. The week passed in a blur of preparation. Julian sent a stylist to help Emma pick out appropriate clothes for the various events. But he made sure the woman understood that Emma's natural style should be preserved, just elevated. When Emma saw herself in the mirror wearing a simple but elegant emerald dress, her hair styled in soft curls, she almost didn't recognize herself. You look like a princess, the stylist said. But Emma shook her head, touching the small flower earrings her grandmother had given her. No, I look like myself, just polished. San Francisco was overwhelming. The hotel was massive, the conference bustling with hundreds of tech industry leaders and media. Julian kept his promise, staying close, introducing her to people with genuine pride in his voice. But Emma could feel the stares, hear the whispers. Who is she? Where did she come from? She's not his usual type. On the second night, there was a formal dinner. Emma sat beside Julian at a table with several other couples, all of them clearly wealthy and connected. The conversation turned to travel, exotic locations Emma had only seen in pictures. She stayed quiet, feeling more out of place with each passing minute. A woman across the table, dripping in diamonds, looked at Emma with false sweetness. And what do you do, dear? I own a flower shop, Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. How quaint, the woman said, and the condescension in her tone was obvious. Julian, I didn't know you had such pastoral interests. Julian's jaw tightened. Emma is an artist. Her work is extraordinary. But Emma could see the doubt in their eyes. She excused herself, escaping to the bathroom where she could breathe. She stared at herself in the mirror, this version of herself in expensive clothes and perfect makeup, and felt like a fraud. When she came out, Julian was waiting in the hallway. I'm sorry, he said immediately. These people can be insufferable. You're right, though, Emma said, hugging herself. I don't belong here. Emma, please don't say that. Julian, look at me. Really look at me. I'm a florist from a failing shop who's never traveled anywhere, never gone to college, never done anything important. Your ex-girlfriend was right. I'm not good enough for your world. Julian took her by the shoulders, his eyes blazing. My world is filled with people who measure worth by bank accounts and status. You measure worth by beauty and kindness and creation. You wake up every morning and make the world more beautiful. That's not nothing, Emma. That's everything. Emma felt tears threatening again. I want to believe you. I do. But I'm so scared of getting hurt. Then hurt me first, Julian said desperately. Test me. Push me away. Do whatever you need to do to feel safe. But please don't give up on this. On us. Because of fear. Emma looked at this man who had shown her nothing but patience and care. Who had seen past her defenses. Who made her want to be braver than she was. She realized that her fear wasn't really about him leaving. It was about her own worthiness. About believing she deserved something good. I need time, she whispered. Can you give me that? I'll give you whatever you need, Julian said, pulling her into his arms. Take all the time in the world. I'm not going anywhere. They flew back to Seattle the next day, and Emma threw herself into work, trying to sort through her tangled emotions. Julian gave her space, but every morning there was a text. Just small things. Thinking of you, hope you're having a good day. Sunrise reminded me of those peach roses in your shop. 1 week passed, then 2. Emma missed him terribly. But she was also wrestling with herself, with her past, with the question of whether she could truly open her heart to someone. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, her landlord appeared at the shop with devastating news. The building had been sold to a development company. They were tearing it down to build condos. She had 60 days to vacate. Emma felt her world crumbling. She called Julian without thinking, and he was there within 20 minutes, holding her while she cried. I can fix this, he said. I can buy the building, stop the development. No, Emma said firmly, pulling back. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Becoming someone who needs to be rescued, who can't stand on her own. Julian looked at her with such tenderness it hurt. Emma, accepting help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But I understand. So let me ask you something different. What do you want? Not what you think you should want, but what would make you truly happy? Emma thought about it. Really thought about it. I want to keep making beautiful things. I want to honor my grandmother's memory, but maybe not like this. Maybe it's time to let go of the physical shop and create something new. Then let's figure that out together, Julian said. As partners, as equals. And for the first time, Emma allowed herself to truly consider a future with him in it. Not as her savior, but as her partner. The decision to close Rosewood Blooms should have devastated Emma, but instead she felt a strange sense of liberation. For years, she'd been holding on to the shop, not because it was sustainable or healthy, but because she was terrified of change, terrified of losing the last connection to her grandmother. But as she packed up the inventory and fixtures over the following weeks, with Julian working beside her, she realized that her grandmother's legacy wasn't trapped in 4 walls. It lived in her skills, her creativity, her love for making the world more beautiful. What are you thinking? Julian asked one evening as they sat among the half-packed boxes, sharing takeout Chinese food. That I've been so focused on preservation that I forgot about growth, Emma said. My grandmother didn't cling to the past. She took a risk, started something from nothing. Maybe it's my turn to do the same. What would that look like for you? Emma had been thinking about this constantly. Something smaller, more specialized. Maybe a studio where I could focus on custom work, wedding designs, events. Something I could run by myself or with just one assistant. Less overhead, more creativity. Julian smiled. That sounds perfect. Have you thought about location? There's a small space available in Pike Place Market. It's tiny, just a workshop really, but it has charm and foot traffic. I went to look at it yesterday. Why didn't you tell me? Julian asked, looking hurt. Emma set down her food and took his hand. Because I needed to prove to myself that I could do this. That I could make decisions about my future without relying on you. Not because I don't trust you, but because I need to trust myself first. Julian understood immediately. Did you take it? Not yet. The deposit is more than I have right now. Emma, Julian started, but she squeezed his hand. I know you want to help, and I love you for that. But I need to do this myself. I'm selling some of my grandmother's old equipment, and I have a little savings. I'll make it work. Julian was quiet for a moment, and Emma worried she had hurt him. But when he looked up, his eyes were filled with respect. You're amazing. Do you know that? I'm learning to believe it, Emma said softly. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Emma secured the space at Pike Place Market and began setting up her new studio. It was challenging, exhausting work, but she felt more alive than she had in years. Julian helped when she asked, stepping back when she needed space, finding the perfect balance between support and independence. But their relationship remained in a strange limbo. They spent time together, talked every day, but Emma still held back from fully committing. The fear was still there, lurking beneath the surface. Then came the night of the Technology Innovators Gala. It's a major event where Julian was receiving an award for his contributions to the industry. He had asked Emma to attend, and after much deliberation, she had agreed. The event was at a historic museum, transformed into a glittering wonderland. Emma wore a simple black dress, her only jewelry, the flower earrings her grandmother had given her. As they walked the red carpet, flashbulbs exploded around them. Emma felt exposed, vulnerable, but Julian's hand was steady in hers. Inside, the evening was actually pleasant. Emma found herself talking to several interesting people, including a journalist who was genuinely interested in her flower business and a tech executive's wife who shared her love of gardening. She was beginning to relax, beginning to think maybe she could navigate this world after all. Then she saw Vanessa across the room, talking to a photographer and gesturing in their direction. Emma's stomach sank. 20 minutes later, Julian was called to the stage to accept his award. Emma watched from their table, proud of his accomplishments, of the thoughtful speech he gave about using technology to improve lives rather than just generate profit. But when he returned, she could sense something was wrong. His phone kept buzzing. He checked it, and his expression darkened. "What is it?" Emma asked.
Julian hesitated, then showed her. It was an article on a gossip website already published. The headline read, "Tech Billionaire's Charity Case. Julian Pierce's latest romance with small-town florist raises eyebrows." There were photos of them together, commentary speculating about why someone like Julian would date someone so ordinary. Quotes from anonymous sources suggesting Emma was using him for money or that he was having some kind of quarter-life crisis. Emma felt the room spin. This was her worst nightmare realized, her every insecurity broadcast for the world to see. "Emma," Julian started, reaching for her. "I need to go," she said, standing abruptly. "I can't do this." She walked quickly toward the exit, ignoring Julian calling after her. She made it outside into the cool night air before he caught up with her. "Emma, please. Don't let these horrible people drive you away." "It's not just them," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "It's everything. Julian, I care about you so much. More than I've ever cared about anyone. But I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough to be with someone whose life is so public, so scrutinized. Every time we go somewhere, I'll be judged. Every time I'm photographed, people will question what you're doing with me. That's your reality, and I don't know if I can live in it." Julian's face was anguished. "So what are you saying? This is over?" Emma wrapped her arms around herself, cold despite the mild evening. "I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying I need to think." "Take all the time you need," Julian said, his voice breaking. "But Emma, please know this. Those people, their opinions, none of that matters to me. The only thing that matters is you. Us. What we have when it's just the two of us, talking about flowers or eating Chinese food in an empty shop or laughing about nothing important. That's real. Everything else is just noise." Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to be brave enough to push through her fear. But right now, she was drowning in it. "I'm going to get a cab home," she said quietly. "I'm sorry, Julian. I'm so sorry." She left him standing on the museum steps, and the image of his devastated face haunted her the entire ride home. The next few days were torture. Emma threw herself into finishing the setup of her new studio, but every moment felt hollow. She missed Julian constantly, missed his laugh, his insight, the way he made her feel like the most important person in the world. But every time she thought about calling him, the fear would rise up, paralyzing her. Her new studio opened on a Saturday, a soft launch with just a few close friends and former customers. It was beautiful, everything she had imagined. Light poured through the windows, and her work table was arranged just the way she liked it. But as she stood there, accepting congratulations, all she could think about was how Julian should be there, how she wanted to share this moment with him. That evening, after everyone had left, Emma sat alone in her studio, surrounded by flowers and the future she had built for herself. She thought about her grandmother, about the stories she used to tell about Emma's grandfather, who had died before Emma was born. He wasn't perfect, her grandmother had said. He forgot anniversaries, left his socks on the floor, sang off-key in the shower. But he loved me with his whole heart, and he showed up every day. That's what matters, Emma. Not perfection, but presence. Emma realized she had been waiting for perfection, for some guarantee that love wouldn't hurt her. But there were no guarantees. Love was a risk, a choice to be vulnerable, to trust someone else with your heart despite knowing they could break it. And Julian had shown up. Every single day, he had shown up. Patient, supportive, respectful of her boundaries. He had never pushed her beyond what she was ready for. He had celebrated her independence while offering support. He had seen her at her worst and still looked at her like she was extraordinary. What more could she ask for? Emma looked at her phone, at the string of unanswered messages from Julian. The most recent was from that morning. "Congratulations on your opening day. I'm proud of you, no matter what happens between us." She picked up her phone and called him, her heart pounding. "Emma." He answered on the first ring, sounding breathless. "Can you come to my studio? I need to talk to you." "I'll be right there." He arrived 15 minutes later, and Emma's breath caught at the sight of him. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well, and there was a vulnerability in his expression that made her heart ache. "Julian," she started, then stopped, unsure how to put into words everything she was feeling. "You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "If you need more time, if you've decided this isn't what you want, I'll respect that. I'll always respect your choices." "That's just it," Emma said, moving closer to him. "You've always respected me. You've been patient when I needed patience. You've given me space when I asked for it. You've celebrated my independence instead of trying to control it. And I've been so focused on my fear, on protecting myself from potential pain, that I almost missed something incredible." "Emma," Julian breathed, hope flickering in his eyes. "I'm not ready," Emma said, and she saw his face fall. "But I don't think I'll ever be completely ready. Love is scary. Vulnerability is terrifying. But you know what's even scarier? The thought of living my whole life playing it safe, never taking the risk, never knowing what we could be together." She took his hands, holding them tightly. "I can't promise I won't get scared again. I can't promise I'll always be confident in your world. I probably will have moments where I doubt myself, where I worry I'm not enough. But if you're willing to be patient with that, if you're willing to remind me of my worth when I forget, then I want to try. I want to be brave enough to love you." Julian pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Emma, I will remind you every single day. I will be patient for as long as you need. And when you doubt yourself, I'll believe in you enough for both of us." Emma pulled back to look at him, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, Julian Pierce. It terrifies me, but I love you." "I love you too," he said, cupping her face in his hands. "So much. From that first moment in the flower shop, I knew you were special. I knew you were worth waiting for." He leaned down to kiss her, and Emma felt something inside her finally relax, finally trust. This was right. They were right. When they pulled apart, Julian looked around the studio with genuine admiration. "This place is perfect. Very you." "I was thinking," Emma said, suddenly nervous again but pushing through it. "Maybe we could collaborate on something. Your company has that big headquarters renovation coming up, right? What if I designed all the floral arrangements and living installations? I could create something that brings nature into the workspace, improves the environment." Julian's eyes lit up. "Emma, that's brilliant. But are you sure? It would be a lot of work, a big project." "I'm sure," Emma said firmly. "I want to build something with you. Not have you build it for me, but actually create together. As partners." "As partners," Julian agreed, kissing her forehead. "I like the sound of that." Over the following year, Emma's business flourished. The collaboration with Julian's company led to other corporate clients, and her reputation for unique, artistic floral design grew. She hired an assistant, a young woman named Sophie who reminded Emma of herself a few years earlier and found joy in mentoring her. But more than the business success, Emma flourished in her relationship with Julian. They navigated the challenges of his public life together, with Emma growing more confident and less affected by outside opinions. She learned that the people who mattered, the ones worth keeping in their lives, saw and appreciated her for who she was. Julian proved himself again and again, patient when she had moments of doubt, supportive when she stretched beyond her comfort zone, always respectful of her independence and growth. One evening, exactly a year after the night of the gala, Julian took Emma back to the museum where they had their crisis. But this time, it was closed to the public, just the two of them walking through the quiet halls. "Why are we here?" Emma asked, curious. Julian led her to a specific gallery, and Emma gasped. The room was filled with flowers, her flowers, arrangements she recognized as her own work. Gardenias, roses, peonies, sunflowers, all artfully displayed in the elegant space. "When we met," You told me that gardenias symbolize secret love, Julian said, taking her hands. But Emma, my love for you isn't secret anymore. I want the whole world to know how extraordinary you are, how much you've changed my life, how every day with you is a gift. He knelt down on one knee, and Emma's heart stopped. Emma Hartley, I know you might not be ready. And if you're not, I'll wait as long as you need. But I want you to know that I'm ready. I'm ready to spend my life showing you how much you're loved, how valuable you are, how the world is better with you in it. Will you marry me? Emma looked down at this man who had seen past her defenses, who had respected her boundaries while gently encouraging her growth, who had proven that love didn't have to mean losing yourself. She thought about her grandmother, about taking risks, about growing toward the light. I'm ready too, she whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. Julian slipped a ring onto her finger, a beautiful design with a central diamond surrounded by small emeralds that reminded her of leaves. It was elegant but not ostentatious, perfect for who she was. They held each other in that room full of flowers, and Emma realized that being ready wasn't about having no fear. It was about trusting that love was stronger than fear, that vulnerability was a strength, not a weakness, that opening her heart was worth the risk. 6 months later, they married in a small ceremony in the greenhouse at Pike Place Market, surrounded by flowers and the people they loved most. Emma wore a simple dress with gardenia blossoms in her hair, and Julian cried when he saw her walking toward him. Their life together wasn't always easy. There were still moments when Emma felt insecure, times when Julian's demanding career created stress, challenges that tested them. But they faced everything together, with patience and care and unwavering commitment. Emma never stopped creating beauty through her flowers. Her business continued to grow, and she found fulfillment in her work that went beyond financial success. She created art that brought joy to people's lives, that marked important moments, that reminded people of nature's beauty in the middle of an urban landscape. And every morning, no matter how busy their lives became, Julian brought her a single flower. Sometimes a rose, sometimes a daisy, sometimes a wildflower he found on a morning run. Each one was a reminder that he saw her, valued her, loved her exactly as she was. Years later, when Emma published a book about floral design dedicated to her grandmother's memory, the dedication also included Julian's name. To Catherine, who taught me that beauty is worth cultivating, and to Julian, who taught me that love is worth the risk. Emma had learned that being ready for love wasn't about having all your fears resolved or all your insecurities healed. It was about finding someone patient enough to walk beside you while you grew, brave enough to be vulnerable too, and committed enough to choose you every single day. And in the end, that was everything she had needed. Not someone to rescue her, but someone to grow with. Not someone to complete her, but someone to complement her. Not someone to fix her, but someone to love her exactly as she was while supporting who she was becoming. The girl who had been afraid to let anyone close had become a woman who understood that the greatest risk in life wasn't opening your heart. It was keeping it closed and missing out on everything beautiful that love could bring.